I could already get like nasi padang with all the side dishes, and yeah, perhaps I'll just put the picture. And you can see the comparison there, and traditional kind of food court, not something you find in plaza or shopping center. Alright, last but not least, it's very safe here. So I guess some of you, or maybe most of you, will have known that Singapore is actually one of the safest countries in the world. And yeah, it's actually quite true. Things are very safe here. I'm not saying that it's zero crime, but you can say it's really true. It's very safe. You really have that sense of you feel safe here. You don't really you're not really worried about anything, especially if let's say you're coming from a developing country. So yeah, this country is extremely safe for you guys. So I guess one of my most memorable experience was again when I first came here. I was out with one of my seniors from my hometown as well. So I still remember the day we were having dinner at Vivo City at the food court. So I guess it was just around 1 week after I arrived here in Singapore. So I'm still quite new here. I'm not too sure about the culture and anything yet. So we arrived at the food court, and then as you know, when you arrive at the food court, then you need to go and buy your food, and it means that usually what typically I would do back in my hometown is that somebody will just sit at the table first to make sure all our belongings are somebody is watching our belongings that we left on the table, on our table. So but here, because it's very safe, my senior just told me that, well, you can just grab your metric card. Metric card is basically our student card. So at NUS we have student card, which we usually call as metric card. So we basically just put our student ID on the table, and that's it. That's just how we mark, or call it choke, our territory, or like our table. So it's like reserve our table right that way. And yeah, we just left and we just go and purchase our food and then came back. So it was quite an experience. It still left an impression to me even until now. And basically just leave our card, and this is certainly something we can't do back in my hometown. So yeah, that's my sort of like my first encounter with how safe it is in Singapore. And it's not just it's not just us doing that. A lot of people are actually doing that. Sometimes they just left their bag, sometimes they just left maybe a laptop or something, I'm not sure, anything of their belongings. Sometimes they just leave it there, and yeah, they just go and purchase food and they came back later to their seat. So that's just how it is in Singapore. And at school as well, at NUS, I think I would say in NUS it's even much more safer, because I guess we always, including myself, we always leave our belongings. Let's say we are studying at an open space, there's table, there's chair, we just want to go and grab a bite, or we just want to go to the toilet, or we just want to go to water cooler, get some water. We just leave our belongings basically. We just left our laptop, even sometimes open. Just leave it that way. We just go and grab something or do something, and then we came back after that. And these are just a very common practice. Everyone is just doing that. Of course, the school are always discouraging us to do so, because they keep reminding us that zero crime doesn't mean less crime doesn't mean zero crime. So they always ask us not to do so. And besides that, they also ask us not to do so because a lot of students actually try to use it as to sort of like choke or reserve. I keep on using choke. I guess it's Singlish. I'm not sure if it's proper English, but maybe I'll just put some translation below. But choke is basically sort of like you reserve, you're like hogging a place, that kind. So you sort of like choke a place using your laptop or your bag, and then you go somewhere else for hours, and then only then you came back. Obviously this is not very a nice gesture to do, because it's unfair to other students who just came, let's say, to the library or came to the study area or open space, and they just wanted to sit, and your items or your belongings are just idling there. So it's definitely unfair to other students. So that's why our school and NUS actually keep on mentioning that we should not do that. In fact, we must not do that. But in practice, that still happen. So yeah, but that's not the point here. But the point is that it's very safe. Me myself, I actually leave my belongings as well. Let's say I'm going to grab a bite, buy something, or even go to the toilet or anything. Sometimes even for 1 hour, 2 hours, I just leave it there and things are just fine. My bag, sometimes even my wallet is in my bag actually. So things are actually quite safe here. So, but truth to be told, I'm more comfortable leaving belongings at school. At public places, usually I'm still fine leaving my bag, but I no longer leave my my student ID metric on the table, like what I told you guys as my first story when I went to the food court with my senior last time. I no longer do that. I don't think I have the gut to do that yet. Typically on public places, especially public attraction, I don't think I dare to do that. It just seems unnatural to me. Like I felt so uncomfortable doing that because perhaps maybe coming from Indonesia, so I couldn't really do that back in my hometown, and it just feels strange to me to do that in a public space. So up until now, I guess the only thing I do usually I just left my bag, let's say at the food court, and I just go and grab something to eat, and then I came back. So that's to the extent that I usually. But typically I still prefer somebody still sitting on the table and watch our belongings. Typically that is what I would preferably do with my friends when we are going to public spaces, especially tourist attraction. So yeah, I mean, it's better to be safe than sorry, right? So yeah, that's that. So but typically things are very safe, I would say, in Singapore. And yeah, to add on a bit to my point just now, which is it's very pedestrian friendly. You can walk almost anywhere here in Singapore. This safetiness is actually quite helpful in terms of that, because one of the main reason I don't really walk around to places back in my hometown is because it is very unsafe for us to do so, especially walking around alone, even in broad daylight. It's definitely not safe for us because chances are I might be mugged or robbed, and actually it happens to me. It almost happens to me once. So it was when I was in junior high school. I was walking back to my home. It wasn't even far from my tuition center, so I guess it was just like 100 or 200 meter, that kind. So you see, it's very close, and I almost got mugged when I was walking back home. I almost got robbed. So that was sort of like the last time I actually walk back alone back in my hometown. So yeah, I guess especially for those of you who are coming from developing countries, then this might very be relatable to you, because you might not really walk to places alone because it is very not safe, especially at night. But here at Singapore, I guess this is, I would say, one of the main good things. So basically things are very safe here, like I mentioned just now, that I actually don't feel scared at all walking alone, even at night, even when it is very quiet. It's like nobody around, or it's just some, let's say, school, or even some let's say a housing district, that kind. So even when I'm walking alone, I don't feel scared at all, because it's just that safe. Of course, again, I need to keep repeating myself that of course it's not zero crimes, there are still crimes, but it is very few that you just feel super safe. Especially like I mentioned just now, if you are coming from developing countries, then you get this sense of significant safety here, that you no longer feel scared walking alone even at night, perhaps because you experience something quote unquote worse back in the hometown. That's why when you arrive here, things are just super safe and you just feel super comfortable. So yeah, so that's another point that I want to add on to regarding walking around in Singapore. So yeah, I guess typically you can just walk almost anywhere. Including not the city center. Of course, the city center is super safe for you to walk alone, but outside the city center is also super safe for you to walk alone. So yeah, I never had any issue walking alone so far here in Singapore. So yeah, that's really great. That's I would say one of the great things that really left huge impressions for me when I first arrived. Well, alright, so I guess that's it. Sort of like 3 or 4 of my first impressions, or like my major impressions when I first arrived at Singapore. Of course, all of those are just my personal opinions, and everyone might have different set of experience, but typically I guess this is what me and perhaps some of my friends feel. So generally we have quite similar experiences, and perhaps even this might sound a little bit cliche, like the points are very very common points, but that's just the reality of it. Like that's a fact. Like maybe you have read this online and people are mentioning these things as well. Yes, it's totally true, and I guess those are really the main impression or the main points that almost everyone experienced when they first arrived at Singapore. So I still hope that what I share and the story that I share or the context that I've given are still quite helpful are still quite informative, so I hope so. So I just would like to share those stories, and hopefully it could still be useful to you all watching this video. Of course, again, all the things I mentioned so far, just the great things, the good things, and yeah, there are also a couple of bad things, like bad impressions. For me personally, coming to Singapore for the first time to study, basically coming to Singapore, living here for the first time. Of course, there are some bad things. You know, there are at least one or two that I can think about on top of my mind right now, but those really ain't the point that I want to talk about here. Perhaps I'll make another video about it, but generally my experience has been rather positive. So yeah, as you can see, you know, the points that I mentioned just now, yeah, things are great. And yeah, if you are, you know, coming to Singapore, you can look forward to that, and hopefully you also have a great experience here. So yeah, I guess that's about it. I guess for this video I'll just stop it here. Again, I'm truly sorry if, you know, my explanation is a bit blurry, and or the way I sort of like explain is still very confusing. I hope as I make more video, especially more video in English, my ability to actually explain could improve much better. So I hope so. And that's actually one of the main reasons why I start doing videos in English. So yeah, I guess that's about it. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope it has been informative and useful, and see you guys again in the next video. See ya.